Welcome to the Charles Barkley AstralTulpaWizardCast, because now we got a second Tulpa here. Verp, would you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am the Verp. That's all that I have to say about myself so far. You'll discover more pieces of information about me as I continue speaking. Like the first note, which is I have a nice voice. At least that's what people tell me.
I'm also gonna interview each co-host with a single question. Okay, the question is, how normal are you on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being most normal and 1 being least normal?
Oh my god. I can maintain, or actually no, anywhere I go, I have long hair, which is automatically minus 2 points for males.
-2? Okay.
Let's see. I tend to say a lot of weird stuff, which is another -2.
Okay.
I have multiple tulpas, so that's like -4. Let's see. I've engaged in very strange and interesting magical procedures, so that's minus like 100. So I can pass as normal if I don't say too much. I can interact with normal people really well. That tends to go really well. I've noticed that there's a lot of people that are in more esoteric settings that have a lot of major social difficulty. And I don't really seem to have too much social difficulty unless I'm around a bunch of people that I've never met before in my life. I tend to do really well in that and pick up new friends relatively easily. I've heard that there are people who have a lot of social anxiety and have a lot of struggles in that regard, regardless of wherever they are. I don't seem to have any problems with that. So, yeah, that and everybody tends to like me. It's just like this weird trait that I have. I like to say that I am omni-friendle.
Omni-friendle, okay.
Omni-friendle, yes.
I think it's fair because I imagine like a 1 wouldn't even be able to fake normalcy, but the fact that you can at least like maintain it makes you like a little bit higher up. I can see that.
Yeah, I can behave normally, but in terms of like me being a normal person, I've had a lot of unique experiences, and I think that kind of disqualifies me from the complete normalton tag on Facebook Tube.
Okay. Alright, so the first topic I brought was Doomsday Preppers. Because Doomsday Preppers are pretty cool. I view them as like a subsection of conspiracy theorists that are actually useful. Because like
for varying degrees of useful.
Yeah, but what I mean to say is that their interests are in practical matters on like how to survive in case, if you run out of food, run out of water and stuff. If a hurricane or an earthquake or that kind of stuff happens, and they do happen, preppers are prepared because the whole thing is being prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, while other conspiracy theorists, are just like, oh no, the Illuminati is getting after me, I have to hide. Well, but the prepper is actually like, yeah, I have a little water generator here in case the world ends.
Yeah, the Illuminati is after me, and here's my cache of weapons and explosives, and if anybody busts into my house, they're gonna explode.
I think that because there was one time where people came to my apartment complex some years ago to give a little presentation on what to do if the power goes out, weather emergency, because there was a weather emergency that happened a little bit earlier. So there's just this one family that lived at the apartment complex, and they just offered to talk about best practices for storing food and water. And then when the show ended and they ended the presentation, my family was talking to them. It's like, well, we only mentioned scenarios like natural disasters, but there could also be a civil war in America to prepare for. We just don't want to scare them because there's kids attending, but we're also preparing for the American Civil War too, not just natural disasters.
Oh boy. That reminds me, a couple, I think they must have been Jehovah's Witnesses. They came to my house and they gave me this little spiel where they were talking about the end of the world and stuff, and showed me this little video of how things are gonna the world is gonna end or something. It's gonna be the end times, and then people are gonna have to rebuild and stuff. And it was really weird because it was 2 oldish ladies, and one of them was in their car, and the other one was showing me this video on her little smartphone of this weird video from some YouTube channel about the world ending. They're gonna apparently an Asian guy and some white chick are going to rebuild the world, because those were the 2 people that were at the end that had survived for some reason. It was Huh? What is this? Okay, thanks.
Nice.
And then they left.
And then they
And
left.
and then they left me a little pamphlet, and I don't know where it is anymore.
Yeah.
I might have thrown it away. I mean, that's typically what you do with the weird little pieces of paper and other pamphlets and stuff that Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, pass you, because it's like, you don't need additional biblical material if you have a Bible somewhere. Then you have the internet, so you don't need additional Bibles anywhere, really. Then again, a lot of people do like to read physical books, so there is that.
Yeah. Understandable. I've also tried to look into amateur radio, ham radio kind of stuff, and the only people who have them are doomsday preppers. Because the internet requires an infrastructure to connect everyone on the internet, but amateur radio and analog technology, you can just do that without an infrastructure. You can do that if the world ends, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that? Did you know that on 9/11, all the cell networks were overloaded of everyone trying to call family? So people with amateur radio setups helped families communicate across the world because the cell networks weren't working.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Doomsday preppers are pretty cool.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure there's a lot of them who are extremely paranoid and as a result are not necessarily fun to hang out with. But if shit goes wrong, you can bet everybody's going to go and say, hey, that one crazy guy lives down the street that has a basement full of MREs and lots of guns. I'm going to go hang out with him because he's the safest place to be in the storm.
I kind of think of it it's just like any other interest. It's like having an interest in zombie movies, having an interest in whatever. Because the appeal of zombie apocalypse stuff is that because you know so much about zombies, you would be really good in a zombie apocalypse. That's what people like about it.
Yeah, people like to think that they could be useful in a zombie apocalypse. And realistically, unless you've been in a lot of combat situations, you're probably not necessarily all that useful. Or if you go down to a shooting range and make sure that you're capable of, popping headshots consistently.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your favorite type of doomsday? Man-made, natural, cosmic, or anything like that?
Are you familiar with the RPG setting known as Shadowrun?
Yeah, that's the one that's it fuses technology with magic. Cyberpunk with magic. Yeah, that's really cool.
I think my favorite kind of doomsday scenario would be one where magic returns to the world and everyone freaks out.
Yes.
I think that would be the most interesting. Zombie apocalypse, not so great. All my friends turn into zombies. I don't want to see that. Nuclear war, no, I don't really like that either. Not so great. You got a lot of radiation everywhere that gives you super cancer in your nutsack, and I don't really want to deal with that. Yeah. Meteor strike hitting a bunch of important places on the Earth. A little bit of too big of a meteor shower, got a little bit too hot. Not so great either. Leaves a lot of dust in the air, and that makes you cough a lot. I don't like that. Magic returning to the Earth? I know all about that shit. That's my jam.
You're prepared.
Yeah, I'm ready for that shit. I've got my wands. I got my wizard hat. I got my robe. I got tons of crystals, and whenever the major magic wave hits, I'm gonna be fucking ready for that shit.
Did you know that the reason why occult and Western esotericism stuff is more popular in Japan is because there was a Japanese occult magazine that runs since 1979 in Japan, and it's just all they do is talk about Western occult ideas and stuff.
Yeah, I remember reading that recently in one of these Discords that I'm in. It might have been here.
It is this one.
I think you might have mentioned that.
Yes.
That's really interesting. What is really interesting about that is that there's a lot of animes that actually feature a lot of serious occult concepts embedded in them. Like Little Witch Academia has a ton of magical stuff happening in it that is kind of in tune with legit magical research and studies that you might pursue. I don't know why Little Witch Academia has to be so accurate, but it apparently is.
Probably read that magazine every once in a while.
Might be related to that. It also might be the fact that a lot of these ideas are actually accessible via the internet. The age of the internet has really turned all of the occult communities into free sharing sources. If you dig around far enough, you'll find basically any book that you could imagine. I imagine that for occultists, it must have been the super worst just before any kind of mass communication was even vaguely possible, before books were easily found in print, because you'd have to go to a secret bookstore hidden in some weird back alley and then find whatever books you were looking for and then hope that they're actually like vaguely good. Those ideas were still accessible, and you could still find a lot of like occult literature somehow. And I know this because I read a bunch of Lovecraft's works relatively lately, and he directly references some occult stuff. So, even back in like the 1920s and 30s, it was still possible to get a lot of the books that you can still get today. Has a couple incantations in one. The Horror at Red Hook references some Kabbalah stuff. And I was like, how did Lovecraft get a hold of all of this metaphysical literature that he would have had to have read in order to be able to reference this stuff? How long has this been available? How did he get what was he doing reading all of this? He had to have read a lot of it in order to be able to reference it like that. He had always professed himself to be like a man of science, like an atheist and stuff. But then he goes around reading tons of occult literature. So, man, just whenever it comes in handy. Actually, I'm sure there's a lot of doomsday preppers who are doomsday preppers because they watch too many zombie movies and are prepared for a zombie apocalypse. So if any other kind of apocalypse hits, they're going to be like, shit.
Like the water levels rise and like, fuck.
Oh no, all my shit's underground.
Like good thing that giant recreation of Noah's Ark is over there.
Yeah, that guy was getting prepared for a giant flood. That crazy guy who believes that he is Noah and kept saying that the world was going to flood was right? Huh?
Not zombie?
Basically. And that's what happened in Noah's Ark. That's the story. Oh boy, I'm sure that Noah was basically a doomsday prepper. I don't think a lot of people are prepared to make that connection.
Yes.
Oh.
Noah, the OG doomsday prepper.
The original doomsday prepper, exactly. And he was ready. He's the reason why we're all here, presumably, if you believe that story to the literal truth. And maybe it's true. I mean, there was that whole story in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which basically has the same thing happening. The tale of the giant flood that ends the world is a weirdly common thread in certain ancient civilizations. So maybe something similar to that happened.
Giant religion crossover event where they all had to deal with the flood.
Well, the idea is basically like a huge flood happened in that region where they were. The people that survived all wound up like separated and stuff. They kind of formed into different tribes and they formed different, I guess, religious veins that kind of all shared similar lineages as a result. And so that's why the tale of the flood kind of happens to exist in multiple ancient civilization chatters.
So you know a lot about hypnosis?
I have learned hypnosis to a pretty decent degree. Maybe I'm not necessarily the super expert at hypnosis. I mean, there's only so many people that I've been able to hypnotize so far. But I'm legit thinking about maybe getting a hypnotherapy certification and then becoming a hypnotherapist. Because one, I'd be able to continue helping people, which is what I seem to be addicted to doing. Not like it's just kind of a weird theme in my life that I end up helping people in weird ways, like through hypnosis. And two, hypnotherapy is actually really lucrative. Holy crap. People are willing to pay a lot of money for you to hypnotize them. So I think that might be a great career choice for me. I'd be able to make more money than I was making when I was working a tech support job. Right now I'm kind of like I'm not in between jobs. I'm working for my dad's business, but I'm not getting paid as much. But I'm seriously thinking about maybe actually getting a hypnotherapy degree and fixing people's brains. But in terms of what I'm really interested in with hypnosis are the aspects involving inducing hallucinatory experiences. Back in 2006 or so, I was reading a self-hypnosis book. It was this little book from the 70s or so, and at the time I had the idea of, what if I implanted a trigger into my mind that basically drops me into my own imaginary world with full sensory immersion?
Nice.
And so I made a couple hypnosis files for this, and I tried to listen to them enough to get it to work, and it didn't really work for me, which was unfortunate and sad. I had some reports
to the anime world.
Not yet. I mean, I'd love to, but but I haven't had as much success with myself in that regard, unfortunately. My brain doesn't seem to take it as well as some other people seem to. There were some people who I did talk to who had some results. It was interesting to hear other people sometimes getting the results that I was trying to get, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, great. Of course, I was just a little lad of 15 or 16 at the time, so I didn't really know like the really good methods for hypnosis that I have now learned. Relatively recently, like last year, I actually read the book Hypnotherapy by Dave Ellman. One of the guys who basically modernized hypnosis and made it really clear how to work hypnosis in a really useful manner. After reading that, I was like, okay, so I refined all the methods that I was using much more appropriately. Now I know that you can chain suggestions together, so you can basically say the deeper you go, the better you feel, the deeper you go. Whenever I say the word deep, you become twice as relaxed. When I say deeper, you go twice as deep. When I say deeply, you go 5 times deeper. And then you just say deep, deep, deeper, deeply, like enough times that they get into the super relaxed state that you're trying to get them into.
Nice.
And it works pretty well so long as you use a good induction. And inductions are the induction part is the part that kind of it jukes the conscious part of your mind into going, oh, this is weird. I seem to be experiencing some kind of weird effect. And then believes what you're saying rather than getting distracted with trying to filter out what you're saying. So the typical one for that is that I use is you close your eyes and imagine that your eyelids are glued tightly shut, and go ahead and test your eyelids to make sure that they're locked shut, and then stop testing them, and then relax. And then you just give them the suggestions to relax all the muscles in their body a couple times, and then take them super deep. There is a particular hypnotic state that I've recently really found out about. This isn't extremely new. This was kind of popularized, I guess, sometime in the late 2000s. There's this guy named Gerald Kine, and he figured out that you can take somebody into a state of hyper-awareness where your subject will kind of automatically resolve their problems if you give them the right suggestions. In typical hypnotic states, the subject is in like a state of just laying there comfortably. Somnambulism is how it's usually called. Then you just kind of deliver your suggestions to the subject. You can get responses from the subject and you can get information out of their subconscious mind, but they're not like super active. They just kind of directly follow your instructions, more or less. With this state of hyper-awareness, which he called ultra-hype, you can get a lot more interactivity out of your subject, and they're in this state of hyper-awareness because you got their body super relaxed, and then you had their mind lift up and rise into a state of super awareness. And suggestions stick a lot better there. And so what I'm trying to do in my work with a lot of people on the internet right now is I'm trying to work with tulpamancers to try to make their tulpas completely visible and induce much more solid experiences with people's tulpas. One of the things that I want to do, but I haven't tried yet because I haven't found the right subject for it yet, or rather the right kind of person hasn't actually volunteered completely in a way that I've been able to actually get them into the hypnosis box and then hypnotize them. What I want to do is I want to induce a full-fledged tulpa in a non-tulpamancer in one session, or 1 or 2 or maybe 3 sessions, and take a person who doesn't have a tulpa and then spin up a tulpa using this ultra-height state rapidly, and then get them to the point of having a fully physically visible, full touch imposition, full audio imposition tulpa that they can interact with and then just have. And then just skip all of the crap of like trying to spend years developing the ability to see your tulpa with your physical senses, because that's bullshit.
Yeah, that's a long goal you got.
Yeah, my secret ulterior motive, which is not super secret, is that I want this to work on myself, but there's not really anybody in the tulpa communities besides the people who live over in Gearhart, and I don't trust anybody over in Gearhart. There's not really anybody in the Tulpa communities who does hypnosis, like conventional hypnosis. There's very few in all of the servers that I'm in, and I'm not in Gearheart, which is maybe where that's where I would have to be to actually hang out with the weird hypnosis weirdos who learn this secret art. It's not even a secret art. Most people don't know how to do hypnosis, but if you knew how to do hypnosis on people, you'd have a really cool tool for interacting with people and helping them out in their lives. But most people shy away from it. They're like weirdly programmed to believe that hypnosis is some kind of weird, evil art. And
I think it's stage performance. Stage hypnosis is that everyone knows hypnosis for. That's probably
stage hypnosis basically really confuses the hell out of everybody. Everybody is essentially hypnotized by the stage hypnotists into believing that hypnosis will make you cluck like a chicken a lot. You know, it's like the image of the hypnotist is this guy sitting in a little chair, and he's got his little watch or his little crystal thing, and he dangles it in front of your face and goes, "You're now getting sleepy." And that's the image that people get called to mind when they think of somebody doing hypnosis, or they think of Dracula going, "Ooh," staring at you with his eyes to make you his slave. I don't know how effective that is, but some people apparently do it. I guess that's what I've heard of from some people in certain esoteric communities. So maybe people are rightfully afraid, but if you actually know how to do hypnosis, you can cancel out the effects by choosing to not be hypnotized. Essentially, to not get hypnotized, all you have to do is not follow the instructions. It's that simple. Yeah, you have to follow the instructions to get hypnotized. That's it. And you can just cancel it out and just go, "I'm not going to get hypnotized by you, lol. Screw you. I don't need your weird shit in my brain." Yes, but you can trick people into accepting it. That's the... You can make people want something, basically. They have to want it, but you can make them want it. And you can use non-hypnotic methods to make somebody want something by saying, "Oh, I bet you can't." And the reverse psychology of that is like, "Oh, well, I bet I can." And then suddenly you've just been hypnotized without even realizing it.
And then you chicken.
Yeah. Advertising is something that uses a lot of hypnotic kind of behaviors, a lot of conditioning as well. The typical kind of thing is like if you've ever seen those Carl's Jr. or was it Carl's Jr. or was it Hardee's who had the advertisements of that sexy chick who was on the car and eating the burger? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you advertise a burger by having a hot chick in a car. And it's like, those are two things that you like, and so you associate them with the burger as a result. And then now a lot of people, if you're wise to this kind of thing, you'll be like, "Oh, come on, please, really?" And then the hypnosis won't work. But if you're like, "That's a nice chick, that's a nice car, that's a nice burger," then there they got you. I'm sure there's a lot more that I could say about hypnosis. But I don't know how much time that we want to spend on me yammering about hypnosis. As much as I love talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, so hypnosis requires you to enter a trance state. Don't you enter a trance state from being relaxed, listening to music or stuff like that, or no?
Music is also a kind of thing that does put you into a trance. Music directly affects your mood. If you think about it, music is a type of audio drug because it just directly changes the way that you feel. Just by playing certain sound vibrations, you can change the way that somebody is feeling. Look, if I play this really sad song, then that person over there will start crying. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people who might be listening that will think, "Wow, I've listened to a song and cried because the song is just so sad that it makes me cry. I didn't think of it like a drug, but now I'm thinking about it, and it's all drugs. Everything is drugs. TV is drugs. Video games is drugs. They're all drugs. Audio-visual drugs. Oh, well, I guess that's the life we live in. Screw it."
I've always wanted something like that, where it's just like, you just have like a 1-minute video that you pull up on your phone and you watch it and get high. And then
well, actually, you can get that through hypnosis. No joke, some of the subjects that I've worked with recently, because I've gotten pretty good at this and I've been working with other tulpamancers, as I said, a couple of them have reported that after the ultra height session that I took them through, they reported like a body buzz feeling kind of like they were kind of a little bit high. I'm sure that it's possible to install triggers in a subject in the ultra-height state, or any hypnotic state really, to make them feel like they're stoned if you just have them say the right trigger word. So you could be like, whenever you say the word stone me, then you start feeling like you took a hit off of a fat blunt. And then just say that 3 times and it'll feel like 3 fat blunts.
Well, the trigger word was 420.
420, smoke up every day. But yeah, that would actually be a pretty good one too. Except then any time that it's 420, then you'll be like,
You couldn't control it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you'd have to have somebody anti-hypnotize you. Not anti-hypnotize you, but hypnotize you and then remove it. So I would not recommend necessarily doing this, or you may get addicted to getting really brain stoned. There are definitely some dangers involved with using dangerous recreational hypnosis. If you've ever there are some hypnosis boards on some of the image boards, and they're mostly filled with weird sissy hypno bimbo sissification hypnosis that'll turn you into a drooling weird sissy bimbo slut.
Yeah.
I would not recommend listening to anything that is intended to actually damage your mind on purpose. A lot of people who have, I guess, hypnosis because there's the people who fetishize hypnosis, so they end up with hypnosis as a fetish.
Yeah.
So then they go and then they jerk off while listening to a weird hypnosis file, and as a result of doing this, end up jacking up their brains. Whoops!
Yeah.
Who would have thought that using weird hypnosis files from suspicious people who want your money dangerously?
Yeah, I've actually heard of a specific one called like Bambi Sleeps or something that puts into the character Bambi. You've heard of it too?
I've talked about it here in this server.
Nice.
I heard about that because I'm in another server and somebody got too close to the fire, so to speak, and accidentally listened to too many Bambi hypnosis installer files. And then he felt the Bambi personality taking over his mind, and then he went through a lot of effort to basically remove it.
Yeah, and the thing about that one is that the Bambi one wants you to become dumber, basically, because like you want to be like, a bimbo or whatever. So the file specifically wants you to become less smart. Yeah. And people report like feeling dumber.
No, I hadn't heard that part specifically. That is very interesting. But yeah, using dangerous hypnosis files is unrecommended. I would recommend not installing anything that says that it is a curse files. I don't know what is up with these. I don't know what's up with people into doing dangerous stuff to their brains. Well, why? Why do you want to do this?
Why
do you want to curse yourself?
3 a.m.
Yeah. Don't get
Do
drunk
not
and
open
listen
your
to
third
weird
eye at
hypnosis
3
files.
a.m. challenge.
Opening my third eye at 3 a.m. challenge. All right, YouTubers, watch this. Oh no, my third eye! And then like the video starts getting all shaky cam, and then you see like his eyes roll back, and then blood pour out of the center of his head, and stuff like that. And then he never posts again. Don't go to sleep at 3 a.m. Well, what are you? Just wait until like 3:01 a.m. Wait until 4 a.m. Just stay awake the rest of the time. Never sleep again. Don't ever sleep. Sleep is dangerous. Ever had a nightmare? Oh, if you die in a dream, a real version of you in a parallel universe dies. So don't get got.
Freddy Krueger comes after you if you sleep at 3 a.m.
Freddy Krueger shows up and then in my brain, and he's just like, "You live here? Oh, wow."
Nobody showed this movie ever.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street 17, Ripple's nightmare.
I put him in a box. I send the box into a weird void space, and he's like, "Shit!" Weirdly, we're on the topic of dreams, which is my next topic, but nice. I think it's time for your topic first.
Yeah, mine was like, because I talked about conspiracy theories, but I wanted to do one that I'm pretty sure no one's ever heard of. So here's the one that no one's ever heard of. So back in 2009, a bunch of countries, including the UN helped in this. They wanted to get everyone onto digital TV because to switch away from analog signals, they have a little antenna on the TV and they receive analog signals to watch TV. But even the UN helped to like pay families money to buy like digital TVs and stuff. And on one hand, it's like, sure, maybe like if there's like an emergency or something, it'd be better if they were on like a digital TV so they can, emergency signal, whatever. Maybe that's more effective in case of like hurricanes, whatever. On the other hand, that's really weird, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. Well, the part that makes sense is that this sort of reasoning, as far as I'm aware, is that they don't want to pay for two separate broadcasting infrastructures. And since everybody's moving to digital anyway, it's just much higher quality than pushing everything out on the analog. But there's still those local TV stations that still use antennas and still use like non-digital broadcasts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're still doing that. I don't know who's sticking to their guns on this particular matter. Then again, I don't know. Maybe they're freeing up all those channels for some
other stuff. That's another reason they gave, was that those analog channels can be freed up for like other stuff. But basically, the conspiracy theory that was given to it was like, you know how when you have really strong analog signals, it penetrates the atmosphere and goes into space. So, for example, the first analog TV transmission was like the 1936 Olympic Games of like Adolf Hitler was like, this is the Olympic Games or whatever, and then that footage is sent into space, and the furthest galaxies or whatever, that's the first transmission they can receive from us.
Oh yeah.
So there's actually an interesting map that shows like a map of the star system that we're in, and then it shows little circles getting wider and wider, and it shows which TV shows that star system can access right now. So there's a circle for the 50s, and it says, they can watch the Brady Bunch, they can watch this show. And then the next circle that's a little bit closer is like, these people can watch Vietnam War, like news stories and stuff. So on one hand, the conspiracy theory works two ways. On one hand, the government wants us to go silent and stop releasing information to the aliens. Or two, they want to make sure that people can't receive transmissions from the aliens. Digital signals don't go into space forever like analog signals do. So the idea is that either one, the government and the UN wants everyone to go silent analog-wise, so that if aliens keep receiving like information about us and they're like, let's invade these guys because they're having the Vietnam War or whatever, then they won't know enough about us because they won't be receiving information or something. Or B plan, maybe aliens have analog signals of like their wars and their TV shows, and it's about to reach our solar system, and they want everyone to not have access to TV. And the only people who would access it were like, people who are interested in like amateur radio and stuff. So it's easy to like dismiss them as like glitches. But if like a lot of people had analog TVs and stuff and received it, then that'd be harder for the government to like disprove. That's the conspiracy theory.
That'd be very interesting. Well, I'm sure there's still a lot of people who still have like old style antennas hooked up to their TVs and stuff. Especially people who live in relatively remote areas who can't get cable, because there's still a lot of people across the states who aren't really able to get cable if they live in like mountainous areas. Sucks to be them. So I know when I was working at a tech job, I was working at an internet company. So people would call in, and I would have to help old people get their email, and I'd have to go reboot servers and stuff. It was basically tech support. But I know there was somebody who called in who said that he was living out in a weird mountainous area, and he didn't have like a landline or anything like that. He was using a satellite dish that was aimed across the mountain or something at like another relay that was aimed at something else that could actually get a signal. So some people do rely on stuff like that. That's not necessarily the exact same kind of thing, but I'm sure people like that would have antennas that they'd be able to, watch TV with. Their analog TV stations.
Yeah.
And all that.
Basically, the theory is that it would minimize the amount of people who would receive that, so that if it was a small amount, it would be easier for the government to cover them up. But if it was a larger amount, it would be a lot harder for them to cover it up. That's the idea.
Well, consider the other following point. Almost everybody still has FM radio and AM radio in their cars. And we haven't really escaped from that. So any aliens that broadcast could probably broadcast something to every car on the road would have the capability of receiving it, assuming that it's on the right, tuned right.
Yeah.
Then again, there's a good chance that any aliens that want to show up, that know that we're here, that have the capability of showing up, are already here and watching us and fucking with us in very subtle and annoying ways.
Yeah. Have you heard the theory of ultra-terrestrials?
Ooh, ultra-terrestrials. Lay it on me. Hit me with this.
So
I'll tell you if I've heard about it.
extraterrestrials are aliens from outside of Terra, outside of Earth. Ultra-terrestrials are ancient intelligent species from before humanity that were born on Earth and maybe still live on Earth.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I have heard a lot of similar stuff to that. That's for sure. That would kind of go in alignment with the literatures and texts that say that there have definitely been civilizations of at least humanity that existed way before any kind of the current conventional accepted theories that like, oh, humans became like civilized like 10,000 years ago or so, and then started developing writing systems. And then there's a lot of weird bits of evidence that indicate that that is not the case.
yeah.
You can see that. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff written about that you could find just by googling around far enough. One of these significant points is the Sphinx has signs of water damage on it, and that indicates that it had existed for like at least 20 or 25,000 years, which kind of screws up all of the existing literature regarding how old Egypt is. If you're interested in that, you'd have to look up the Magical Egypt series.
Yeah.
And they talk
So
about
the
that.
idea behind ultra-terrestrials is that they're aliens that exist on Earth or in Earth, however you want to say it, and a lot of people find that scarier than extraterrestrials because we already know that we don't know space, but if Earth itself had like an entire different like dimension or frequency or inside the Earth that had aliens in it, and that means that we were really fucked because we don't even know our own planet.
Well, we definitely don't know our own planet. Quickest example of that. How much of the oceans are mapped?
Less than Mars.
Yeah, not very much of the oceans are mapped.
Yeah.
So maybe Atlantis is floating around down there somewhere. Maybe they're still hanging out down there in giant dome cities that live somewhere in the Mariana Trench or something weird like that. Who knows? Not really any good way to check because water doesn't really transmit radiation very well, so we can't look with our eyeballs. There's definitely a lot of other fun theories about the Hollow Earth and about civilizations that live underground. The mole people is sometimes it's derided as, wow, yeah, there's a bunch of mole people. Oh! But there's supposedly civilizations that live under the Earth's crust that don't really interact with us too much because we're noisy and annoying. They don't like us because we're loud. I think that's a very gross oversimplification, but that's approximately what I kind of picked up from it. We're just kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And we're all going to die, and they don't care.
They don't care?
Well, some of them care. Some of them don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not doing a whole lot about it, apparently. If they really cared, they'd just pop out and be like, hey, stop fucking around. But then again, maybe that's what they've been doing by, like, maybe they're posting on our internet and saying, hey, Hollow Earth theory, and trying to get us to actually, like, tune into that. Maybe aliens are posting on 4chan.
That would explain a lot.
That would explain a few things. If I were an alien and I was able to, jack into another planet's, like, internet and then see what kind of shit they were posting about, and if I could have it translated, I would post random shit all the time. That would be so much fun to fuck with aliens.
Dude,
in that kind of fashion. I'm sure they're doing that to us. I am sure that they're just fucking with us as bad as we would fuck with them. Because, like, one of the typical kind of things that, like, abductees kind of report is a bunch of weird shit happening to them, and then they get dropped back off, and sometimes they're, like, naked or whatever, and they have, like burns and marks and, like, weird bits of shit inside their bodies. The aliens are just fucking with us. I mean, imagine that if you give a bunch of human children the ability to fly around through all of space and just let them do whatever they want with big deity suits.
Yeah,
like deity-level exosuits.
Teenage aliens just come to Earth to share their unfunny alien memes. They're like, haha, isn't this funny, kid?
Considering the state of most memes right now, that's starting to make too much sense.
And I'll say one final thing about ultra-terrestrials was that basically there was a book called The Eighth Tower. And it's called The Eighth Tower, subtitle Ultra-Terrestrials and the Super Spectrum. It's a collective theory to explain all paranormal phenomenon, where he talks about the super spectrum basically being kind of like a visual spectrum that kind of goes on and off. So there's just another frequency where like cryptids like Bigfoot and ghosts exist on, and we just kind of get bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's where the term ultra-terrestrials comes from, is this one book back in the 20th century this guy wrote to explain like all paranormal phenomena. And he kind of goes through like a couple different examples of popular X-Files type stuff, and he gives it like the super spectrum treatment.
I wonder how much stuff in X-Files that is actually true, because just so that they can screw with us. Supposedly, like, the Illuminati is running like Hollywood and stuff. And what they do is they like to throw out bits of real information through like movies and shows, other forms of media.
Predictive programming, you mean? Predictive programming.
Yeah, to like program us to be able to accept that kind of thing for whatever reason. To prepare us for like alien invasions. There's lots of alien invasion movies like Independence Day and Mars Attacks. And then they just kind of make it all funny and make it acceptable to us. There's that whole, what is it, Project Bluebeam or something?
Oh, yeah. I know Project Bluebeam. Do you want to talk about that one?
From what I remember about Project Bluebeam, because I haven't looked too deeply into it, there's this whole conspiracy where they're going to try to fake an alien invasion in order to unite everybody under a one-world government.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a thing that they would try to do, so I guess I'm just waiting for that kind of shit to happen.
Yeah, Project Bluebeam is basically saying that the government has experimental technology that can create holograms in the sky, and so they're either create religious icons over each country, like the Buddhist nations will have the Buddha flying over them, the Christian nations will have Jesus flying over them, and then they'll just have all that, and then they'll say, this is a religious apocalypse or something, and they use holograms to trick everyone, or to do alien invasion kind of thing. So just using the holographic technology of Blue Beam to, fuck with the world.
Yeah, we're just gonna get fucked with really hard. I'm gonna bet that it's gonna be the first thing that's gonna happen is people are gonna start shooting at whatever weird hologram shows up in the sky, and that's gonna interfere with with their plans. Can you wait? What if it like really happens though? Like Jesus pops out of the sky, and then some redneck shoots him down. And I got one. I look at him. I got him, Daddy.
And then he wipes it again 3 days later. Like, fuck.
Yeah, he's just like he just flows into the sky again. He's like
every time he gets shot down, he wipes his back 3 days later.
they just keep doing this like constantly. They don't ever stop. Oh, that would be awful. I think that would make God angry or something.
They'll make him very mad.
Yeah, God shows up, then they start shooting at him too. So yeah, let's see. I was going to talk about lucid dreams and stuff. So, I don't really actually have too much, so I don't have a ton of stuff to say specifically in regards to this. But I have a couple tricks that I've learned in lucid dreams. For those of you who have lucid dreams and don't necessarily have a ton of control over them, because whenever I'm in a lucid dream, I don't always have like super control over everything. It's not like godlike control over stuff. I usually have just kind of shitty telekinesis. But there are some cool tricks that I have learned. One is that you can reach behind yourself into unformed dream space. Yeah, I've talked about this, but people watching the podcast might not have heard this. You can reach behind yourself into unformed dream space and pull out any object that you want to remove from unformed dream space. It functions a lot like in cartoons. You got the characters, they reach into their pants and they pull out whatever, and the collective term for that is hammer space, because usually they'll pull out a really big hammer out of nowhere and then smash the other character with it. So dreams do function a little bit like cartoons in that regard. If you have a tulpa, you can also pull your tulpa out from behind you. I would suggest doing that rather than trying to like get your tulpa to pop out of any other character or just randomly appear. I haven't really had a whole lot of luck doing that. Maybe some people can make that happen, but if you're having trouble with that, then just reach behind yourself, call out for your tulpa, and then grab your tulpa's hand when you start feeling it, and then pull your tulpa out in front of you. And then commence to engage in whatever kind of activities with your tulpa that you would like to engage in. Lucid dreams don't always last all that long, so make it quick.
Yeah. You know the method of cementing yourself in a dream where you just rub your hands together really, and then feel your hands and look at your hands, and that makes you more centered in a dream?
It does? Oh, I've heard of another one for like if you spin around.
Yeah, spinning. That works too.
That also kind of weirdly works. Also, I'm sure that there's a particular direction to spin, but I don't know which one it is.
I always spin clockwise. But you can also say clarity now, and then your vision will become more clear.
Ooh, that sounds useful. Next time I have a lucid dream, I'll have to try to remember that one.
Yeah, I do the three. I go hand rubs, spin, clarity now, in that order. I do that every time.
What I want to do is I want to use hypnosis. I guess I could try getting somebody into an ultra high hypnosis state, and then basically give them suggestions that they'll always have lucid dreams, and then have them turn on their parts of their brain that let them have lucid dreams all the time. So I'll have to test that and see how that works on subjects. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
What I really need is somebody who actually knows how to do ultra height hypnosis well enough, or hypnosis in general well enough, and that I would be able to.
Wait, what if you teach your tulpa and your tulpa hypnotizes you?
I've done that a lot. The problem with the issue I have with that is if I start drifting in and start getting weird visual little micro dreams, then it kind of interrupts the hypnosis that your tulpa is doing.
Makes sense.
That my tulpa is doing, not your tulpa. Well, the other note that I want to say on lucid dreams, the other trick that I have, the trick is if you are in a place in a dream, you don't like where you are, and you'd rather be somewhere else, but trying to run to wherever you're trying to go to is wasting your time. Stop wherever you are, and if you are near a surface, you can draw a door shape with just your finger on the surface and then push through it. Like put your hands on it and then push through to push it, and it'll open up a door to wherever you're intending to go. I've had
heard that.
It is a really cool trick. I heard recently, I was talking to somebody, he said, hey, that trick is from Beetlejuice. And I was like, what? Really? That concerns me. Because last time I saw Beetlejuice was when I was 6 or something. And I definitely didn't learn that trick. I figured that trick out myself relatively recently. So the fact that it exists in literature, 1, confirms the fact that it's a good trick, and 2, concerns me in regards to the nature of that particular movie. So you can open a door to anywhere. You can also do this in the air to make a portable hole. Basically but to do that, you have to pinch the air and then draw a circle in the air, and then you can peel off the circle that you kind of clip out of the air, and then you can pull it over yourself like you're putting yourself in a magic bag kind of thing.
That's cool. I just look for doors. That's what I do, but that's way better.
Yeah, well, sometimes there's not a door available. Sometimes you're standing out in a field, and then you have to draw it on the ground. But sometimes you're out in the middle of space and floating, and you're just like, shit, there's nothing anywhere that I can draw this on. So you just have to clip a hole in the air, and then basically portable hole yourself to wherever you're trying to go. This, I've noted that the portable hole trick, doing that in the air, has been much glitchier and has tended to result in me getting stuck in weird places, like partially intersecting stuff. Yeah, it makes the dream go all glitchy and stuff, like it's not rendering
go
properly.
Out of bounds of Super Mario 64.
Yeah, kinda. It's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
If you go out too far outside of the boundaries of whatever your dream is trying to do at the time, it causes some weirdness.
Here's a trick I came up with. When you're in a completely black space, imagine a projector behind you projecting onto a black wall in front of you, and then walk into that projection. That's what I did.
That sounds like a cool trick.
Yeah.
But you'd have to be in a black space first, which I guess you could imagine. I guess in a dream you could close your eyes.
Yeah, it just dreams where like you are in a completely like black space what I was in. You can also do a thing where you can rewind by like, well, it was like it happened at the end of one dream, where the dream was about to end, and then my vision zoomed out, and I saw a YouTube video of the dream, and then I pulled back the little red dot a little bit, and then the dream zoomed back in, and I was in that dream at an earlier point.
That's cool. That actually reminds me, there's a particular mental trick that I've used in a lot of instances where I was having like a bad visualization. In the course of having tulpas, you may sometimes end up having weird visualizations or intrusive thoughts that you don't like. One of the tricks that you can use is to abstract yourself from the mental imaginary situation that you've created on accident or has been created around you, and like imagine pulling yourself out of a TV and then setting the TV down. You basically abstract the situation you were in onto a little digital a little TV screen, and then you can turn it off to delete the problem that you were having.
Yeah. Because just for me, because I work a lot with video editing software, I kind of like to rationalize everything as video editing software.
Ooh, yeah, that actually gives you some cool techniques for interacting with your dreams.
Yeah, like one dream I had trouble flying. So what I did, because at that time I was working with a 3D software, I think it was like you create little rooms and stuff, and in it you can like click and drag, and then the entire world moves in front of you. So what I did instead of flying was I just grabbed a faraway spot and then pulled it toward me, and the entire world moved like in the 3D software.
Ooh.
And that's how I moved really fast from one point to another, with just grabbing really far and pulling the entire world toward me by rationalizing it like a 3D software.
Perspectives, baby. It's all perspectives.
Yeah,
that's pretty
really
cool.
Fun. So if you're listening and you don't lucid dream, get a dream journal and write down every night. That's how you do it.
Yeah, there's another trick for inducing lucid dreams that I invented. As far as I know, I invented it. Maybe somebody else came up with it and put it somewhere. But one of the things that I noticed is that dreams experience audio penetration from physical reality. So if you're having a dream and then you start hearing something from the real world, it'll penetrate into your dream, and then you'll be experiencing it in your dream sometimes. So like if you fall asleep listening to a podcast, for example, like maybe this one, sorry for putting you to sleep. But if you're
listening to this while you're dreaming right now, giving you tips, and you're like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that actually would be really fucking nice to receive some lucid dream trips while you're in a dream. Yeah. So if you're having a dream right now, then I hope all of the hot anime babes just come to you and give you a good time. And I hope that you're actually into that. Maybe you're not. Maybe you want the hot anime dudes. I don't know. The trick that I've invented, as far as I know, for inducing lucid dreams is what I call the Lucid Dream Hack playlist. Nice. You basically make a recording of yourself saying like, hey, this is a dream. If you can hear this, it's a dream. If you can't turn off this recording, you're in a dream. Take control of your dream now. And you say some stuff like that for about 30 seconds. And then you intersperse that in the recording in intervals of like 5 to 10 minutes or so. What you want to do is you want to have that play at a moderate enough volume that it doesn't wake you up, but loud enough that it penetrates through your dream's blanket of dreamness, so that you hear it while you're in your dream. You basically have that in intervals of like 5 to 10 minutes of like your 30 seconds of talking and saying, hey, this is a dream, and like 5 to 10 minutes of silence. And you repeat that for like an hour or two in your recording. And then you just set that on repeat, and then you listen to it while you're sleeping. The thing that you want to happen is you want that to play while you're in one of those REM stages, which is one of the times that you're actually able to receive such a message from yourself. The part that you definitely want to keep is if you can't turn this off, you're in a dream. Because one of the problems that I've had is sometimes when I've tried stuff like this before I've really got better at it, I would hear myself saying all this stuff, and then I'd be like, this is kind of annoying to be listening to. And then I would go to try to turn it off wherever it's playing from in my dream, and it wouldn't work, and it would just be annoying. I wouldn't get it, and I'd be like, this is the message that I'm trying to get through to myself. I should be getting it, And then every time I wake up from one of those cases, I'm like, damn it, I'm an idiot. It really makes you feel stupid when that kind of thing happens. So you got to remember to include that part of the message. So then hopefully what'll happen is it'll work. You'll notice that it's a dream. You'll take control of your dream. And then hopefully by the next time that it plays, you'll have had enough time to enjoy yourself in your dream. And hopefully you won't end up waking up as a result of the next time that it plays, which is a definite possibility. It can happen. And it's annoying when it happens, but it's just the risk that you have to take in order to get that lucid dream if you can't seem to get it in any other way.
Yeah, always stay calm when you become lucid, or else you might wake yourself up.
Oh yeah, if you get too excited, you're like, yeah, I'm lucid, yes! Then you'll fucking, like, wake up, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And then you'll fall asleep again, and then you won't be lucid, because your brain hates you. Oh hey, we've already been talking for an hour. Yeah, I guess we should try to do an outro really quick.
What would an outro be?
I don't know. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Woo!
Yeah! This has been the Astral Plane Podcast on Charles Barkley Tulpa's server. We hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode. And if you liked it, then like it on YouTube, I guess. If you didn't like it, then consider doing something else that you like more. Yeah, consider doing something else with your life rather than listening to an entire hour of a podcast of people that you don't like. Why would you do this? Oh, God. You got any more outro for us, Charles?
I'll see you all on the astral plane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Get astral.